I'll just say, today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and on YouTube channel. By participating in the open meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. Thank you. And moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Bosworth. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated October 11th, 2022 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. Are there any declarations of opportunity and interest? Yeah. Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Creaser. Be it resolved the minutes dated September 12th, 2022 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And Rachel?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, and then I'll explain the procedures of the hearing. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Chair Alan Edwards, members Joe Quinn, Lisa Grogan Green, Sharon Creaser, and Rob Bosworth. I can confirm that we have a quorum. I can also confirm that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this October 11th, 2022 agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. It should be noted the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed a vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions were sent to committee members on Friday, October 7th, 2022. The planner will also present any submissions received after this date. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. If you are here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. Committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and/or staff. Committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions of applications for consent and minor variances and the reasons for minor variance decisions as both required under the Planning Act will be pre-populated with standard wording. However, committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. It must be noted that the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. Additionally, there's a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. In the case of a minor variance application, a building permit is not available until after the appeal period and no appeals are received. When you present at the hearing, please provide us your name and mailing address. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. Please note that the resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. Lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bornhold. And our first application is B 2622 ML Payne, and that is Ms. Walker.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and members of committee. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. The first application to be heard is consent application B/26/22ML in the name of Payne. The subject property is known municipally as 1139 Mornis Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 33 of the agenda package. The severance application has been made to create one additional lot. The severed lot is currently vacant. The retained lot contains a dwelling. No additional development is proposed at this time. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 18 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments have been received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, the District of Muskoka, Bell Canada, Hydro One, and the Trillium Lakelands District School Board. These comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting, and I can read any of these comments in full at the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following conditions. 1, that a registerable description or deed of the severed lot and any required rights of ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that the cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot, or the entire subject lands, whichever is less. 3, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal systems. And 4, that confirmation be received that an entrance permit is available from the township's Public Works Department for an entrance to the severed lot. Staff have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is there anyone here to speak in support of this application?
In support, no.
Anyone in opposition? No. Okay, other questions from the members? I see somebody there has their hand up.
That's the agent.
Pardon?
That's the agent, Melissa.
Okay, yeah, then they can speak.
So good morning. My name is Melissa Cope. I'm solicitor for the applicants. My office is located at 61 Joseph Street, Port Carling, Ontario, PO Box 365, POB 1J0. The planning staff have described the application to create one additional lot, and I'm just in attendance to ensure that if there's any questions or concerns the committee have regarding the application, I can hopefully answer them for them.
Thank you, Ms. Cope. Are there any questions from the members? No? Moved by member Logan Green, second by member Quinn, and be it resolved that consent be granted for application B/26/22 Payne, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. And 3, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal systems. And 4, that confirmation be received that the entrance permit is available from the Township Public Works Department for the entrance to the severed lot. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the next application is A3922 Desroche. That's Ms. Crowder.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Edwards and members of committee. First application to be heard is minor variance application A3922 in the name of Desroche. The subject lands are known municipally as 1112 Skeleton Lake Road 3. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 61 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to recognize an as-built partially constructed sun deck, ramp, and stairs, to construct a new dock on the waterfront lot, and to relocate and reconstruct an existing sleeping cabin on the back lot. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Following comments were received and have been circulated to committee prior to today's meeting. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, stating that Public Works does not recommend the reduction of setbacks from public roads unless there is a compelling reason to do so, or if the application provides an improvement or betterment of an existing condition that is in the best interest of the township. Public Works is not aware of circumstances where this is the case. However, if the application is approved, Public Works requests that the applicant take full responsibility for any and all damages to their property as a result of the reduced setback. Comments have also been received from Nick Snyder, the Township Chief Building Official, stating that a building permit is required for the relocation or reconstruction of the sleeping cabin. Should the proposed cabin include plumbing fixtures, a sewage permit application is required, and the system to service the building shall be located on the same property. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be adjourned for the following: a satisfactory scoped environmental impact study prepared by a qualified professional to address potential impacts to fish habitat, and an updated site plan with detailed water depth information taken at intervals along the full length of the proposed dock and compliance with a minimum setback of 25 feet for the sun deck and ramp from the lot line abutting Skeleton Lake Road 3. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. Is there anyone here to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? No owners, nothing? Okay. Well, we do have somebody.
Adam Lenny, the agent.
Okay, thank you.
Adam Lenny, the permit guy, 35 Covered Bridge Trail in Bracebridge, P1L 1Y1. I understand that they're talking about deferring or adjourning this till the further meeting. We do have a fish habitat underway. The engineer has told us verbally that there is no fish habitat in that area, but we're waiting for his report to come back. He said about the 20th of this month. Also, with regards to that 20-foot setback from Skeleton Lake road allowance, currently Skeleton Lake is actually on their rear lot. It's not even in the road allowance, as we have a current survey of that. It's about 100 feet right now from the backside of their cottage to the actual road, and the road allowance is way east of that towards their lot. I also did have water depths for the dock in my presentation, but I'm not sure how this works with, being recommended that it being adjourned. I'll look to you.
Might as well go and not go ahead with it. Your presentation. We'll probably adjourn it, but at least we'll know what's going on.
Okay.
Just in case anybody else is listening.
Sure. Okay. So we'll start with the decks. So the cottage was built in the late 70s, early 80s, and has been in the family for a few generations. They're not looking to increase any lot coverage for the small cottage, just to get some usable space. The deck was originally built to the east neighbor that came out 6 feet with large steel beams for support, which I'm sure everybody saw in the staff report. The beams are still there today, just there's no wood tops. So they would like just to rebuild what was there probably 30 years ago. The deck has gone through several design variations in order to keep existing setbacks in mind. I understand there's a concern with the rear setback, but we can, if need be, we can redesign that as well. With the dock, there's currently no dock. All the neighbors have docks about the similar, maybe not 80 feet, but pretty close. I do have we don't need to get into it today, but I do have a map showing other people's docks in the area. The fish habitat, with it going out 80 feet, even at 80 feet out, there is only about 5 feet of depth, even going out that far at the optimal summer water level. So, I mean, we will come back and we will put it what it is all the way back, but it's pretty shallow going all the way out. The Shore Road purchase process has been started in July and is underway and will be completed prior to permit submission. Currently, to the immediate neighbors have docks of the similar size and projection with the shallow waters. They are also asking for less than the allowable cumulative width of a dock. Once again, just something that is functional for mooring a boat in deeper waters. The cabin itself on the back lot is only 143 square feet and is currently unsafe, as you saw in the pictures. If approved, it will be torn down with a rebuilt setback of 15 feet to the west of the existing overhead hydro line. It will comply with the side yard setbacks of 15 feet to each neighbor. This is all I have for a presentation. And if there's any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak on this? No? Okay. Are there questions from the members? It has been asked that we adjourn this meeting, and I think we will, so we can get the full report for the fish habitat. Okay. Yes, Mr. Bob.
From the pictures, it looks like we have lawn right down to the front of the water on this one. I can't remember if the staff report recommended plantings or not, but clearly I think we should have plantings across the front of the property.
Okay. I think our the agent can.
Yes, through your chair. Yes, the owners are willing to, once we get through site plan approval, willing to add plantings to their shoreline. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we'll see you when you get all the reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your time. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. And the next application is A 4122 Hilborn, and that's Edith Island. And that is Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Edwards, and good morning, members of the committee, members of the public. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A4122 in the name of Hilborn. And the subject property is known as number 1 Edith Island on Lake Rosso. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted sketches starting on page 79 of today's agenda package. And the purpose and effect of this application is summarized as follows. The applicants have demolished a 2-story boathouse on their property with a dwelling unit in the 2nd story, and the applicants propose to replace it with a new 2-story boathouse. The new boathouse design involves a new rooftop sun deck and a new 2nd story covered area. And relief is requested from the minimum side yard setback for a 2-story boathouse or a boathouse with a roof capable of being used as a sun deck. So in this case, the minimum side yard setback is 30 feet and the proposed rooftop sun deck is to be set back 13 feet from the southwesterly side lot line projection. Also, the proposed covered area is to be set back 11 feet from the southwesterly side lot line. And relief is also requested from the maximum permitted size of 2nd story boathouse on a lot with 300 to 400 feet of lot frontage on a category 1 lake. The maximum permitted 2nd story size is 650 square feet, which is permitted to be a combination of habitable floor area and covered area. In this case, the proposed 2nd story is 1,323 square feet, and a variance of 573 feet is therefore requested. However, it's important to note that the existing boathouse has a 2nd story size of 1,776 square feet. So the proposal is for a 2nd story that is a reduction in size. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 11 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act. And the comments have been received from the Township's Development Services and Public Works departments. Both have advised that these departments do not have any concerns. And detailed staff report has been prepared for committee's consideration and staff have recommended approval. I have no further comments at this time and would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is the owner or agent here to speak on this?
Not that I can see.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition to this application? Are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Bosworth.
I've seen other applications. I think it was for a land severance. It wasn't at this committee, but the owner had his historically living space or a kitchen basically in their boathouse, and they had to get affidavits proving that they had that kitchen was in existence before the bylaw that came in that said you couldn't have them. And this one just says in our report, in today's report, it just says that staff understand that the second story has contained a legal non-complying dwelling. I just want to be sure that we're being fair with everybody and doing our due diligence to ensure that that a full dwelling was on that boathouse and is in fact is grandfathered, because the boathouse isn't in existence anymore. The previous case I was referencing, the boathouse was in existence, so you could walk in and see it, but they needed an affidavit proving it had been there before the bylaw came in effect.
Okay, Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you. Actually, I think Bryce Sharp has something to add.
Okay, just 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and good morning, members of committee. It looks like it's a beautiful day out there. Thank you for your question, Member Bosworth. I think I can't speak to the exact situation that you may be referring to with respect to when staff may have required evidence in the form of a sworn affidavit regarding a legal non-conforming or non-complying use. But I would assume that, where that has been requested, there was something that it related to that instance that warranted it. In this particular instance, based on staff's review of the file, it would appear as though the boathouse is quite, it's been established, I think, since at least the 1800s, according to assessment information. We've received photos of the interior of the boathouse indicating that, in fact, there is a stovetop. The applicant and their agent have been quite forthcoming about the use. And in this particular instance, the use really, the use as it's compared to the proposal, it's not really implicating the proposal in any particular way, that the floor area of the boathouse, the upper level, isn't changing. The use is considered legal non-conforming. There's nothing, I don't think, in our minds that would warrant a sworn affidavit in this case. Certainly, if committee is looking for that, it's something that could be requested, and I would suggest, if that's the route that committee wants to go, that the application be adjourned. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure that we were being consistent, at least, and the answer says we have enough proof that we believe it was in place, so that's fine.
Okay, now there's 2 people there. Do they like to speak?
Yes, they will.
Okay. Who would you like to bring in first? Mr. Muntz or Mr. Dennis?
I think my mic's off. I can go forward. My apologies for not being able to get in a little sooner. Anyways, good morning, Chair Edwards and committee. Lanny Dennis, Lanny D Planning. I'm a registered professional planner. I've been retained by the DeConing Group to join their team to assist with the planning process on planning applications. I think that's a fair and accurate assessment of the proposal, and I think that staff has done a thorough job in reviewing the proposal. I'd like to concur with the planning department to approve the application as it meets the 4 tests of the minor variance. Just I'll quickly, if it's okay, I'll go through the merits of the proposal. And I just want to start with the size of the boathouse. It's been discussed about the size of the boathouse, and it is being reduced from 1,776 square feet to 1,323 square feet. Certainly a lot less mass and bulk along the shoreline, particularly important to note because it's on the 2nd story, which has a more prominent viewpoint than down below. And certainly when compared to what was there, I think you've seen photos of the boathouse, and compared to the new design, there's a considerable noticeable difference. The boathouse is being constructed in roughly the same footprint as previous located. And this was a point raised by staff. And I agree that it would minimize the disruption to the lot, as it's going to utilize the existing pathway down to the boathouse, where there's some steeper slopes. So having to relocate the boathouse would push it into these slopes, and of course you'd have to remove vegetation and cause disruption, disturbance to the lot. The boathouse width remains at 38 feet, so there's no change in that. The boathouse length is being reduced from roughly 55 feet down to about 41 feet, thereby reducing the visual impact and its prominence out into the water. The straight line frontage is roughly 354 feet, and the contour frontage is about 780 feet. There's more than ample frontage to accommodate this reduction in the size of the boathouse, particularly because it's reducing the second floor size, and also by utilizing the existing footprint that it was previously on. The island itself has two properties. Both properties are in the family. The existing boathouse, I think, as you've seen by photos, is rather weathered, so a new boathouse would be warranted in this case, and because of its vintage, also warranted. There's a significant tree cover along the shoreline, which helps as a great natural backdrop, and also helps and assists buffers the existing low profile, modest sized cottage in behind. The proposed height matches existing. A new septic system will be required. The sun deck is no closer than the deck below. The setback actually increases as you go further out into the water, as the lot line splays away from this property. So that's at its closest point, would be the 13 feet. Of course, the shoreline also helps to buffer. The covered area at the back, as referred to, is open, and it's only about 31 square feet in size, not visible to the lake. So again, minimizing the visual impact. Overall, adding to the merits and the overall net benefit, the overall width of the entire structure is being reduced from 67 feet to 65 feet. So well within the performance standards for a lot with this much frontage. And also the new deck is correcting an existing encroachment, bringing the proposal more into compliance with the zoning bylaw. And as noted, building permit was issued for the reconstruction of the proposed dock. And respectfully request committee approve the application as it meets the four tests of the minor variance. And Mr. Muntz is here to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dents. Mr. Muntz, would you like to say anything?
Good morning, staff and committee members. It's Eric Muntz of 3 Armstrong Point Road, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. Of course, just Lanny spoke on our behalf, so I'll just leave it at that for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from the members? No questions? Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A 4122 Hilborn to permit the construction of a new dock and 2-story boathouse with a rooftop, sun deck, and covered area is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a rooftop sun deck to be set back 13 feet from the southwesterly side lot line projection. 2, to permit a covered area forming part of the second story of a boathouse to be set back 11 feet from the southwesterly side lot line. And 3, to permit a second story boathouse size of 1,323 square feet. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Yeah, I think it's an improvement to talk about the 4 tests of a minor variance, to say that a variance of 778 square feet on something where you're allowed 650 is not minor in nature. There's staff support and no neighbor complaints, and it is an improvement. So I will be voting for it, but it really is a major ask. That's just a statement.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is A 4522 Moore, and that is Ms. Walker again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-45/22 in the name of Moore. The subject property is known municipally as 1109 Keeler Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan starting on page 105 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a detached garage, a sun-deck addition, and 2 additions to an existing dwelling consisting of a 1-story addition and a basement. Relief is requested from section 3.4.1E of Bylaw 2014-14, being the existing lot of record requirement. The minimum lot frontage requirement is 100 feet. The subject property has 99 feet of lot frontage. Relief is also requested from section 4.1.3.5 of Bylaw 2014-14, being the minimum front yard setback requirements for a dwelling and a sun deck. The minimum front yard setback requirement for a dwelling in this case is 50 feet. The proposed dwelling additions are to be set back 39 feet from the high water mark. The variance requested is 11 feet. The minimum front yard setback requirement for a sun deck in this case is 40 feet. The proposed sun deck addition is to be set back 29 feet from the high water mark. The variance requested is 11 feet. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 11 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 2 comments have been received. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. These comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objections. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the owner or agent here?
Yeah.
Okay, let me bring them in, please.
Am I in?
I believe so, sir.
Oh, okay. I've got nothing further to add. I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, very good. Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that application A 4522 Moore to permit the construction of a detached garage and 2 additions to an existing dwelling consisting of a 1-story addition and a basement is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a dwelling additions, including a basement and sun deck addition to an undersized lot. 2, to permit excuse me, 2, to permit dwelling additions, including a basement, to be set back 39 feet from the high water mark. 3, to permit a sun deck addition to be set back 29 feet from the high water mark. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision.
Did you read the other variance about the garage?
Just a minute now. I don't see one on here.
I think we're gonna have to mark this one up, Alan.
Pardon?
I think we're gonna have to mark this one up.
Okay.
It should have said, it should have referenced a garage.
Okay, we'll mark it up the way
okay.
you need
Okay.
it. We'll just take a second to get this corrected.
Thank you for your patience, committee. While Chair Edwards was reading the resolution for this application, I noted that relief was not included to permit a new garage on an undersized lot. So I've just included reference to a garage permitted on an undersized lot as part of this resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Should have caught that myself. Okay, I'm just gonna read the variances. To permit a dwelling addition, including a basement, a sun deck addition, and a garage on an undersized lot. 2, to permit dwelling additions, including a basement, to be set back 39 feet from the high water mark. And 3, to permit a sun deck addition to be 29 feet from the high water mark. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is A 4622 Bornhold, and that's Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 4622 in the name of Bornhold. Subject property has frontage on Bruce Lake and is located at 1107 Bruce Lake Drive, unit number 5. And I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 125 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a dock on an undersized lot. The property contains a dock today, but no firm evidence has been provided to demonstrate that the existing dock is legal non-complying. In the waterfront residential WR1 zone, the minimum lot requirements for an existing lot of record are a lot frontage of 100 feet, a lot area of 15,000 square feet. In this case, the property has a compliant lot area of 16,988 square feet, but a lot frontage of 95 feet and is therefore undersized. A variance to the minimum lot requirements is therefore requested. So notice of the public hearing was circulated 11 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 6 comments have been received to date. I'll provide a summary and can also read each in full at committee's request. The Township's Development Services and Public Works Departments have both advised that they do not have any concerns. A submission was received from Nancy and Michael Watt from 1114 Bruce Lake Drive, a neighboring property to the east. The letter is in support of the application, but raises 2 questions. Firstly, the applicants would like to know if the proposed dock will negatively impact the suitability of an adjacent township-owned property for a public boat launch. Although plans for a boat launch are unknown, the proposed dock would be located greater than 100 feet from the shoreline of these publicly owned lands. Just thought I would mention that. The submission from the Watts also asks if the new dock will negatively impact aquatic habitat in the bay. And a submission was also received from Milan and Carol Kovac from 1109 Bruce Lake Drive, direct neighbors to the east. The letter is in opposition, expresses the following concerns. While they would have no issue with replacement of the existing dock and configuration, they are concerned about the size of the proposed dock. The letter states that the subject property has been used as a short-term rental, often with large groups spending time there. Environmental concerns, light pollution, sound pollution, and safety within a small bay are all concerns raised in the letter. Also, the size of the existing dwelling, which was approved through the granting variances, is raised as a concern, and the letter also questions if some in-water work has already been completed. And a submission was received from Sandy Mikalaki and Nicole Sprite from 1107 Bruce Lake Drive, Unit 3. Apologize if I did not pronounce those correctly. That's the abutting property to the north. The letter is in opposition, expresses the following concerns, and states that the property has been used predominantly as a rental property, and in discussions, the owner has made references to this proposal this is what it states in the letter, as a party dock. They are concerned about the proposed size of the dock and believe it would impair their fair and reasonable enjoyment of their property. The letter states that they would support a reasonable, modest sized dock. A submission was received from Rob Mikalachki and Lisa Tremaine from 1107 Bruce Lake Drive, Unit 1, which is a neighboring property to the northwest. And the letter is in opposition and expresses similar concerns. And it states that throughout much of the summer, since it was built several years ago, the property has been used as a rental property and has resulted in inconveniences as a result of large, loud, sometimes loud groups and trespassing of renters onto this neighboring property. A lack of contact information for the owners has also been raised as a concern in order to discuss concerns with them. And environmental concerns have been raised as a concern within a small, shallow bay with visible aquatic wildlife. And the letter suggests that an EIS should be conducted, environmental impact study. And considerable number of trees have been removed on the property when the dwelling was rebuilt several years ago, which has reduced natural privacy screens between the property and the neighboring properties. The letter also states that 3 variances were granted in the past to permit the current dwelling, and this would be an additional variance. And size of the proposed dock is a concern, and it also questions if in-water construction, whether in-water construction has already begun. Staff have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration, and due to there not being any fish habitat assessment information available on Bruce Lake, staff have recommended that the application be adjourned until a satisfactory scoped environmental impact study has been completed to address potential impacts to fish habitat. This property also has an existing site plan agreement registered on title. Pending the completion of a satisfactory scope study, staff would recommend that this existing agreement be amended and that securities be taken for the renaturalization of the shoreline buffer. And I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. And I see the owner and I guess the agents here. Would you like to speak on this?
Good morning, committee and council. Well, I guess you're all committee members. I'm Christy Hamilton of MPS Engineering and Design, PO Box 232, Nobel, Ontario, P0G1G0. I'm here to speak on behalf of Mr. Bornhold. We are in agreement to go ahead and adjourn this application until we can get an environmental assessment study completed. We have already started contacting people once the report came out and let us know that that was something that was going to be required. We're also perfectly fine with additional plantings and stuff like that. The owners already went ahead earlier this summer and contacted a landscaper. He had to remove a few trees this spring because of rot and dying and some issues with where they were, they're just dying off. So he's already been in contact with somebody. So no problems with reinvestigating the site plan agreement and getting some more vegetation put on the property. As far as the comments go, obviously I'm not real aware of what goes on this property when I'm not around. So maybe Mr. Bornhold can address some of those concerns, just so committee members are aware of what's been happening on the property. But as far as I know, I was part of this project from the very beginning. I was the one that for the previous variances as well, and they were front yard setback variances to the deck and to the building. This is only a single story structure with a walkout basement. It's not a 2-story with a walkout basement, as one of the opposition people have mentioned. Really, I agree with the adjournment, so we would be coming back to see you, but wanted to give you a little bit of information up front. I'm answer any other questions, and maybe Mr. Bornhold would like to speak on behalf of some of the concerns of the neighbors.
Okay, thank you very much, Hamilton. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Thanks for your time. As Christy has indicated, we're completely in agreement with the adjournment. I would like to address points. When we originally built our cottage, obviously we had to cut some trees down. It was always our intention to do a revegetation. And in fact, we have spoken to the township about this because we wanted their input to understand which indigenous species they would recommend we put in. We've had a landscaper out to look at this. We have every intention to do this. It was always our plan. And we welcome that and hope that the township would even be willing to give guidance in that regard to make sure we're doing it to the best way possible. Call me a tree hugger, if you will. But, you know, we actually are very concerned with the environment. I can go into our own home where we live in York Region, and here we have York Region working with us to attract butterflies and things like that. So we are true to that word and that we are concerned for the environment. I would like to address what the Michalakis, both Sandy and Rob have said, and the other Milan Kovac. We had rented it. It was 2 and 3 week rentals. It was not for the whole summer. It was half the summer. We did that to help pay for things. We did our last rental this year. It will no longer be used as a rental. There were never any large parties. We didn't get any complaints from any of them during this, and there's been no issues. We do have an issue with Rob Michalaki and his driveway where he went against the township bylaw, and not to get into neighborly disputes, but a lot of what's happening is coming as a result of that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair?
That's not part of this, so we'll just...
So if we look at from a light pollution standpoint, we turn our lights off just after getting dark. We don't keep them on long. We have lights that point downwards from the soffits. We have a few, solar lights on the property, very few. They also have lids that points the light downward. So I don't think the statement of a light pollution was fair. We've already talked to, Christie's reached out to 2 environmental assessment companies. We absolutely want to get that done. We're very well aware that Bruce Lake is a clean lake. There are fish habitats. We're not about to disturb it. What we intend to do is to put in steel pylons. I think there's 5 or 6 that were dropped off prematurely and I had put to the side of the property. Let me be very clear. We will not do any work, and nor has any work ever been done without getting township approval. We will not cross that line ever. We will get the assessment done. I imagine it will be favorable. I will tell you that our footprint, because we're going to use the steel posts, the footprint we would have there versus the cement blocks that hold down a floating dock for moving around will be a smaller footprint on the bed of the lake than what exists now with the cement blocks. So we believe what we're doing will actually have a favorable environmental impact in that regard. I'm not aware of trespassers so I can't really comment on that. We did remove 4 trees that were dead and one large tree, which was a little heartbreaking. It had a 40-foot, and I have a video to show a 40-foot split that was about 6 inches wide, probably a foot and a bit deep. It had to come down. It was dying. It posed a threat to fall over and either destroy the existing dock and boat that gets parked there, or someone could have been under that. So we had to remove that. Again, every intention now to replace and revegetate. I think that covers everything that was mentioned. Oh, one last thing. This is not a party dock. I have no idea where they get such a comment. If you take a look at the use of our property, we're probably one of the quietest people on the lake. We go up there for tranquility, not to party. So I have to disagree vehemently with that. And the other thing is that the two, both Sandy and Nicole and Rob Michalaki, they don't see our dock. They're on the other side. It has no impact on them whatsoever. That's it. And we agree with the adjournment. We'll get our ducks aligned to make sure that what we're doing, currently what MPS Engineering has done, I believe meets all bylaw requirements, and we'll make sure that the environmental impact is favorable before doing anything to obviously get your approval.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this, either for or against? Okay, would you bring them in, please?
There we go. Sorry,
Okay.
it's
Thank you.
Rob Michalaki here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we'll need your name, address, and postal code, please.
Sure. Rob Michalaki, 1107 Bruce Lake Drive, Unit 1. I'm not actually familiar with my postal code up there. Sorry about that. But I am one of the three neighbors that abut Jim's property that have all voiced very strong disapproval for this. And I'm just going to stick to sort of factual inaccuracies in what Jim has just said. Not being able to see the dock, that's not true. My brother's property stares right at it through the side of, stares right at it through the side of his cottage. So they absolutely see the dock. No large groups. Jim has said that he never rents out to large groups. They rent it out to a wedding. So they rented their property out to a 40-person wedding reception, and with just no regard for, and not a wedding they were involved with. This was a third-party wedding. Absolutely no regard for their neighbors. He talks about renting it out for half the summer. I guess that depends on how you characterize the summer. We're up there the entire summer. Our children both work up there. So we're there in a supervisory manner and just to enjoy ourselves. And Jim has been up this summer. He was up 1 week. Past summers, it's about the same 1 week or a weekend. I see him once a year in spring. Every spring, he has told me that they're no longer going to rent the property or just a little bit this year, and then it's rented out the entire summer. So when he's saying these things, again, I'm just sticking to the factual inaccuracies. It is just so disingenuous. And it has created so much disruption to the neighbors, that cottage. And I'm surprised there's not more than 3 disapprovals. And it might be because we just got the letter on Wednesday about this. So we're reacting in a very quick fashion. I don't know why this would be adjourned. I would think it would just be shut down entirely. I don't know why somebody needs 4 variances on their property. That just seems extreme. And when I think about what we're trying to, and one more inaccuracy in Jim's statements, it's not an inaccuracy. If you've torn down and rebuilt your cottage 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and you're a tree hugger and you believe in revegetation and you still haven't gotten around to it, I mean, that's a little hard for me to say.
Let's keep on the topic, please.
Sure.
Not getting into arguments here.
No, I'm just trying to.
I realize what you're trying to do, sir.
Yeah.
And
So I don't think this should be adjourned. I don't think somebody should be given a fourth variance so that then they can put a massive dock out there. That, by the way, if everybody in that dock, everybody in that small bay put a 50-foot dock out, they would be hitting each other. This is a tiny bay. If his neighbor Milan put a 50-foot dock out, it would intersect with Jim's dock. It would probably collide with Jim's dock. Somebody needs to go out there and take a look at how tiny a bay this is and how crazy it would be if everybody put a 50-foot dock out there.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? No. And we are going to adjourn this and that for the environmental assessment. Thank you very much for your time. We always listen to everyone. Oh, sorry, there is somebody who wants to make a comment.
Through you, Chair. The report suggested that there was a previous site plan agreement in here and there were some violations against it, one of them being flagstone patio. This house, it looks like the house is only 33 feet back from the shoreline. When this comes back, I'd like to see that patio being removed. And if you wanted my guidance on the application, I would agree with some of the neighbors. I don't think a 50-foot dock is appropriate, given that the one they're replacing is quite a bit shorter. So those are just my thoughts, but it's better to get them out now so they can be addressed during the adjournment.
Okay, thank you. And Member Creaser.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the adjournment is not just a chance to get the environmental assessment, but for the applicant to meet with their neighbors and hopefully get at least some of them more on board to this application, however that is. Maybe it is shortening it up to where it is right now. But there's let's hope that when it comes back, there is more agreement from at least a portion of your neighbors, particularly the ones adjacent to you. And that's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you. So we'll see you at a future meeting. And on to the next. Right, the next application is A 4722 Joseph, and that's Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 4722 in the name of Joseph. The subject property is located within the urban center of Bala at 1012 Boathouse Street. And I would direct committee's attention to the submitted sketches starting on page 141 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to recognize an as-built dwelling addition. And in the urban center residential R4 zone, the minimum permitted interior side yard setback is 15 feet. In this case, the as-built addition is 2 feet from the easterly side lot line, and a variance of 13 feet is therefore requested. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 12 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 2 comments have been received. The Development Services Division has advised they have no concerns, and the Township's Public Works Department has advised that a deck at the dwelling's entrance encroaches upon the Portage Street road allowance. While Public Works does not require the deck to be removed at this time, it should be noted on file that the Township may require remove the deck in the future at no cost to the Township. And staff have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration and have recommended approval. I have no further comments at this time, but I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
I know my planner is here, so maybe she'll speak on it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And that, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair and Committee, for hearing our application today. Emily Thaler, Marie Poirier Planning and Associates, 44 King William Street, Unit A, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H1G3. Thank you, Sam, for summarizing the application. The minor variance requested is to permit, as he noted, a reduced side yard setback, resulting in the reconstruction of a previous dwelling addition. As Sam noted, the requested variance is to permit a side yard setback of 0.8 meters, where the existing legal non-compliant side yard setback is about 1.24 meters. The addition itself squares off the existing dwelling, and while the addition does not extend past the easterly building line of the structure, the angle of the dwelling in relation to the lot line results in that small decrease that you see of about 1.4 feet beyond what's existing. The abutting property to the east contains a dwelling that's near parallel to the dwelling on the subject lands, resulting in almost no change to the distance between the buildings. The neighboring property also contains a shed, which actually crosses onto across the lot line and sits just a little bit onto the subject property. This shed sort of offers a visual separation between the neighboring dwelling and the addition, and serves to further kind of limit impact. And it's our understanding that at least one of the neighboring property owners has voiced no concerns with the addition. Finally, the addition itself adds about 213 square feet to the total footprint of the property. That results in a lot coverage of just 10.1%, where 20% is the maximum permitted. With the addition also being only 1 story in design, and a setback of the water of over 26 feet, the addition does not result in a dominance of built form, and should be considered appropriate for the property and a logical expansion of the existing modest dwelling. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have, as well as the owner is here to speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hyder. Is there anyone else here in support or opposition?
We have someone speaking up there.
Okay, would you bring them in, please?
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Gibson?
Yes, I'm Mr. Joseph's neighbor at 1014 Portage Street, P0C1A0.
Okay.
I totally support Jeff and his addition and what he wants to do. And I have no objections whatsoever. Jeff's been nothing but a good neighbor. No issues whatsoever. So I fully support Jeff and what he wants to do here.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Okay, so are there questions from the members? No? Oh, that's Mr. Quinn.
I question the deck that's sitting on the roadway. The township's reserving the right maybe to do something in the future at no cost to them, but do we have a liability if something's to happen on that deck, the way it sits now?
Very good question. Who would like to answer that, Mr. Take that.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Edwards. Maybe just to clarify, Member Quinn, maybe if you could reiterate your question. I wasn't sure that I was totally grasping what your question was.
Well, on the survey showing the building, and based on Mr. Sawyer's comment, he says that there's a deck that encroaches, and on the survey it clearly does. And we reserve the right to have that removed one day if need be at no cost to the township. But my question is, that's clearly on the area designated for the roadway or the roadway setback. And if something's to happen, does the township, or do we have a liability that we're not dealing with that deck as we know about it?
Okay, thank you. I get what your question is now. I think in this particular instance, I don't believe the Public Works Department raised any objections. Mr. Soya can correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. Soya, maybe if you want to jump in here and just confirm that for me.
No problem. Yes, the Public Works Department, I did speak to them about, and they submitted comments, and they advised that they were just at this moment noting that this deck does exist. It is not encroaching onto the traveled portion of the road, but it is within the road allowance lands, and it serves as an entrance feature to that dwelling. They did not express any concerns with regards to liability at this point in time, but so I mean, I think it's noted that it's there and that it can be, they can ask to have it removed at any time in the future should there be any additional concerns.
Yes.
I would just, there's no, even if it had a railing towards the roadside to where people had to go off it on those stairs as opposed to off the front and maybe trip forward. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Any other comments from the committee? None? Okay. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Quinn, and be it resolved that application A 4722 Joseph to permit an as-built dwelling addition is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a dwelling addition to be set back 2 feet at the closest point from the easterly interior side lot line. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and the next application is A 5222 Mashup. And that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5222 in the name of Matchett and McFadden. The subject lands are known municipally as 1116 3 Mile Lake Road 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on page 187 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is as follows: to construct a single-story garage within the minimum exterior side yard setback requirement. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating that Public Works does not recommend the reduction of the setbacks from road allowances unless there is a compelling reason to do so, or if the application provides an improvement or betterment of an existing condition that is in the best interest of the township. Public Works is not aware of circumstances where this is the case. However, if the application is approved, Public Works requests that the applicant take full responsibility for any and all damages to their property as a result of the reduced setback. Comments have also been received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating that they have no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection to the application, provided that the existing non-compliant steel frame tarp and storage container on running gear be removed or relocated in compliance with zoning provisions. Staff would also note that in this case, the requested relief from the exterior side yard setback is from an unopened road allowance, not a public street. Staff have no comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi there. We don't have anybody to speak on our behalf, but I'm Amy McFadden and Robin Matchett is here with me.
Okay. Would you like to say anything or just answer questions?
We're here to answer questions.
Okay, very good then. Are there any questions from the members? Yes, Member Bosworth.
I appreciate the staff's comment that it might be slightly reducing the amount of agricultural land, but the distance between the house and the garage is 23 feet, and we need to take, I think it's 23 feet. We need to take out 13 feet to make it compliant. And I'm just wondering if the applicant could perhaps explain why they couldn't make it compliant. There seems to be lots of area on their property.
Okay, would the applicant like to answer that?
Where we built the house, we're up on a knoll, and it's as we get down to the bottom of the knoll, it gets to be wet grounds. So we're just trying to keep it up on the top of the knoll as high as possible, and also trying to keep it away from the road allowance. So it seems tight, but we're just trying to keep it off the road allowance and onto the highest ground.
And we were later made aware of the road allowance, that the property line on that side of the lot was deemed as road allowance, as everything was approved and we were given the permit, and then later we were made aware of that. So we've had to readjust and reconfigure the placement of the house. And in looking at the property, the placement of the requested garage is just most practical and adjacent to the house. Yeah, so it's the ideal spot for a lot of different reasons.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? No? Moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A 5222 Mashett McFadden to permit the construction of a single-story detached garage is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a garage to be 36 feet from an exterior side lot line. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. 1, an existing non-compliant steel frame, tarp shelter, and storage container on running gear be removed or relocated in compliance with the zoning provision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next one is A 5322 Hilliard, and that's Miss Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5322 in the name of Hilliard. The subject lands are known municipally as 3196 Highway 169. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 207 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to construct a building to be used as an office. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating that they have no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection to the application. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And we have the applicant or applicant's agent here.
The agent.
Okay, would you bring them in, please?
Hi, good morning. Adam Lenny, the permit guy, 35 Covered Bridge Trail, Bracebridge, P1L1Y1. The clients, my Hilliards, are looking to construct an office on their property. If they were to comply with the side yard setback, it would push the proposed building into the existing structure. They would like some egress and some room in between the buildings, which is why we're looking for some side yard relief today. If approved, this will also help with the building code requirements for spatial separation and limiting distances for the openings in both buildings. Staff has also mentioned species at risk. I personally don't see the need for this, as there will be no trees to come down and the building envelope is currently wide open, as you can see in the report. I'm here if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this? No? Okay. Are there questions from the members? Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that application A 5322 Hilliard to permit the construction of a building for an office use is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit an office building being 13 feet from the southerly interior lot line, and 2, to permit an office building on an undersized lot. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and the next application is A 5522 Sims, and that's Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A55/22 in the name of Sims. The subject property is known municipally as 1134 Island Park Road, Unit 2. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 224 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to demolish an existing shoreline structure, including a 2-story boathouse, and propose to construct a new dock and 2-story boathouse. Relief is requested from section 4.1.710 of Bala 2014-14, being the minimum lot frontage requirement of 300 feet for a 2-story boathouse on a Category 1 lake. In this case, the property has a lot frontage of 260 feet. The variance requested is therefore 40 feet. If granted, the variance will permit a 2-story boathouse in accordance with the provisions for a 2-story boathouse on a lot with 300 feet of frontage. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 13 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 4 comments have been received. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. These comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. After the circulation of comments, 2 letters of support were received. The first is from Paul Donaldson, neighboring property owner to the west. The submission is as follows. I am absolutely thrilled as the owners of the property adjacent and west of Steve and Laura Sims and their decision to move the boathouse to the east of their existing boathouse and cut down on the overall dock coverage along the shoreline and bring it into conformity with the bylaw of 25% of shoreline coverage. I also realize the plan was submitted and needs to be flipped so their sun deck on the upper level has more sun from the west. I absolutely support this and what they are doing as a positive effect on the shoreline of Lake Rosso. The second letter of support is from Anne Marie Green, neighboring property owner to the east. The submission is as follows. We have reviewed the application made by Laura and Stephen Sims to build a new dock and 2-story boathouse on their property, which is immediately beside our cottage residence. We are strongly supportive of their project, even with their plan to flip the design and build the mirror image of the structure as shown in the illustration accompanying their application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objections. Staff would note that after circulation, the design of the boathouse was flipped, but none of the dimensions are changing. The second story of the boathouse will just be located on the opposite side of the first story. Staff have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. And we have the applicant and applicant's agent here. Would you, which one would like to speak first? And then just give us your name, address, and postal code, please.
Sure, I can start off. Sean Donaldson, Muskoka Lumber, 4-156 Medora Street, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I am the applicant's agent, speaking on behalf of Steve and Laura Sims. In my opinion, this is minor in nature. It's fairly straightforward. We're looking to move what is 81.5 feet of cumulative dock width between the current boathouse and the existing swim dock, compiling it into one structure, being the boathouse. That will conform, as of Paul Donaldson's letter, to the 25% of the straight line frontage, being 65 feet for the proposed boathouse for the dock. The first story structure of the boathouse will be the 16% width that is allowed, so that conforms to the bylaws. Currently, we are legal non-conforming at 21.3 feet from the side yard setback to the west, and that will be brought closer into the middle of the property to bring it into full conformance. The upper story sleeping cabin will be 550 square feet as it is today, with a slightly reduced sized front entry porch area off of that second story. I'm here to answer any questions. If Laura would like to speak to the application, then she's of course welcome. Again, here for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Donaldson. And would you like to speak, Sims?
Thank you. My name is Laura Sims. I reside at 305 Oriole Parkway in Toronto, M5P2H6. I have nothing to add to Mr. Donaldson's summary, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you very much. And are there any questions or comments from the committee? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
I'm a little concerned with the overall built form of this application, and I was wondering what the other members thought. We're going from a one-slip boathouse to a four-slip boathouse. I don't know if staff could tell me what's the total square footage of the docks compared to the existing docks. It's going out from a maximum of 35 feet to over 50 feet of length. It is also being moved, although it brings it more into compliance in terms of side yard setback, it is being moved out farther into the lake, and therefore it's not tucked in the corner the way it was. So built form on the shoreline is going to be quite a bit more significant. So those are my thoughts, and I was just wondering if anybody else shares those. We're talking about the right to have a second story building, second story on the boathouse. So that right exists in the current footprint, but it doesn't exist where they have it proposed right now, and therefore we should give some consideration as to whether that should be allowed.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Donaldson, unless you're asked at this point, I will look to Mr. Sharp. Just one second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and thank you, Member Bosworth, for your question. You will note that, yes, in fact, there are two separate docks that will be removed. There's an existing two-story boathouse. I would note that in this particular case, all that is being called into question or non-compliant is the two-story consideration in front of you. The dock and the single-story boathouse completely comply with all of the applicable zoning requirements. The ask that is in front of you today is for a two-story boathouse. Now, with that being said, if committee felt that there was a concern about built form, consideration could be given to a reduction in the size of the two-story portion of the boathouse. But I would note that the floor area is proposed to remain the same. So hopefully that provides you with a bit of insight with respect to how staff came to their recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer the question, Member Bosworth?
Well, my question was, did any of the other, I understand that the issue is are we allowing a two-story boathouse or not? And I was just wondering if anybody else had any thoughts about it.
Okay, Member Quinn.
Well, I think that they could do the flat top and the building, because they're not asking, they're going all bylaws, they're meeting going out in the water and their dock width. They could do what they're doing without the live above, and I think that would be just a box. I think it looks better with the building up top. If it could be a little smaller, I don't know if that would change change my opinion. I'm probably okay with it, but it would be nice if it was a bit smaller.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh. Member Green, we lost your video there. Okay, did you have anything you'd like to add or say?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Member Quinn.
I think that, you know, the neighbor support here is one of the big concerns for me, and they seem to have it from both sides. So I will vote for it today.
Okay, I'll read the resolution then.
Yeah, I will support it as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Quinn, and be it resolved that application A 5522 Sims to permit the construction of a dock and a two-story boathouse is hereby approved with the following variants being granted. One, to permit a two-story boathouse on a lot with 260 feet of lot frontage in accordance with the provisions for a two-story boathouse on a lot with 300 feet of lot frontage. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you, committee.
The next application is A 6122 Porter, and that is Ms. Crowder again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A6122 in the name of Porter. The subject lands are known municipally as 1109 Robert Johnson Road, Unit 3. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 251 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to construct a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck and dock. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating that they have no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection to the application, provided the existing carport, wood shelter, and pump house be removed as intended. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And is there the agent or owner here? No one on this, for or against? Oh. Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dennis. Yep. Yeah, it was retained by the DeConing Group to join their team to assist with planning process. I think that's a fair and accurate assessment by staff of the proposal. And again, they've done a thorough job in their review. I concur with the planning department to approve the application. I think it meets the 4 tests of the minor variance. Just quickly, the variance, the merits of the variance, it's within the tolerance level of the town's official plan. The size of the dock that's going out, the length of the dock that's going out is 42 feet, which is less than permitted. It certainly meets the character of the area. There are boathouses on either side of this, as well as additional boathouses along the shoreline. There's a fair amount of existing mature coniferous tree cover along the lot lines and along the frontage of the property, which assist in buffering and compatibility with the overall site. The boathouse itself appears to be angled sort of roughly in the same position as the cottage immediately to the left when looking at the water. There's a bit of a rise in the land as you head back from the shoreline towards the cottage and the property, so it's lower then cottages then the neighboring cottage. So the view would sort of be out over, if you will. So it shouldn't affect, shouldn't be any visual impacts from that respect. The proposed boathouse is probably 100 feet or so away from the abutting property owner to the right when looking at the water from the shore. Again, just to reiterate, the existing dwelling on the property is well buffered with healthy coniferous vegetation along the shoreline, which mitigates visual impact from the mainland structures. The boathouse itself complies with all other performance standards, and to maintain a reasonable lot coverage, the proposal is going to remove an existing pump house, a carport, and a shed, reducing the clutter on the property. Yeah, I would respectfully request committee approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition?
Oh, there is a hand.
Oh, just a minute then. Yes, Mr. Jones.
My name's Steve Jones. I'm at 1109 Unit 1, immediately adjacent to the Porters, and I fully support this application.
Okay, thank you very much for your support. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this application? Okay, are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 6122 Porter to permit the construction of a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 6,973 square feet, or 10.8% of the area of the entire lot. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following conditions. 1, that the existing carport, shelter, and pump house be removed as intended. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried.
You think we could take a 5-minute break?
Yes, we'll take a 10-minute comfort break at this time. Then we'll resume. Okay, thank you very much. That's good. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And the next application is A6222 Colin. And that's again is Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-62/22 in the name of Conlon. The subject property is known municipally as 20 Harris Street. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 266 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to demolish an existing dock and propose to construct a new dock and a single-story boat port. Relief is requested from section 5.1.11b2 of Bala 2014-14, being the maximum permitted length of 50 feet for a boathouse or boat port. The proposed boat port is to be 58 feet in length. The requested variance is 8 feet. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 13 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 5 comments have been received. Comments have been received by Tim Supko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. Letters of support have also been received by Jocelyn Flanagan, area property owner, Lynn and Brad Wallace, neighboring property owners to the south, and Paul and Autumn Miller, area property owners. The comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. I've prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration and have no objections. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Okay, would you bring them in, please?
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you. Would you give us your name, address, and postal code, please?
Yes, my name is Carol Conlon. My address is 20 Harris Street, Post Office Box 405, Port Carling, P0B1J0.
Okay. And what would you like to make any comments?
Well, I'd just like to support my minor variance application by saying the existing dock that I have now that will be removed to build a boat port is approximately 50 feet in length. Nobody comes to visit me here because of the shallowness and the unsafe situation in terms of trying to dock a boat here. So asking 8 feet would greatly help someone to come into the open boat port that I'm going to have built in a safe manner and have some depth to be able to come in without touching the bottom of the river.
Okay.
That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak either in support or opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Bosworth.
I didn't see as part of the resolution requirement for plantings across the front of the property, and I was wondering what the reason was for staff. This property has lawn at what appears to be right to the shoreline, and that's contravention to our bylaws.
Okay, go ahead, Caitlin.
When staff reviewed the property, there were some mature trees along the shoreline as well as some newer trees that have been planted. So in our opinion, plantings weren't necessary in this case, but of course, if committee feels like plantings would be appropriate, we can amend the resolution to impose site plan control. I'd also note that this property is in the urban center of Port Carling, so our official plan policies are slightly different than a typical waterfront lot would be.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Member Bosworth.
Just a secondary question. So does that mean that because it's in the urban center, 50 feet of natural vegetation is not required? So, or what is the difference between urban and normal lakefront properties?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I'm just going to Mr. Sharp to jump in here if he has anything to add.
Okay, just 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I think with respect to what the official plan would require, so far as the shoreline buffer is concerned, it would still be 50 feet. I think in this particular instance, based on Ms. Walker's site visit in the context of the requested relief, I think we were comfortable moving forward without plantings. However, as Ms. Walker had correctly pointed out, it certainly is an option to committee if they're looking to consider a requirement for plantings as part of this proposal. I would note that shoreline structures, as per the township site plan control bylaw, are otherwise exempt from the site plan control process. So this development would not trigger that process prior to the issuance of a building permit. So we had considered all of those factors. It is a property in an urban context, but it is on the waterfront. So again, it is available to committee, but we just felt in this particular instance that we were okay to proceed without imposing a condition. Thank you.
Yes, Member Quinn.
I think the shoreline buffer is not, when you look at the other neighbors along there, and there is a park owned by, there's a piece of land, I believe, owned by either the subdivision or the town. None of these, they have grass to the water. So it isn't, whether it's right or wrong, it is in keeping with the neighborhood. So I don't have a problem approving this the way it is.
Okay. Yes, Member Grogan Green.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I support Member Bosenworth because even though there is a park that may be maintained by the municipality, it is wrong to be that close to the river and not have any kind of a vegetated buffer. I think it's just riprap along the water and some very mature older trees at the perimeter that have been mostly pruned. So I think like even a copse of trees around that, what looks like a birch or something would be appropriate. I don't, just because everybody else has lawns doesn't make it right from an environmental perspective. That's my opinion.
Okay, anyone else? Oh, just 1 second, Mr. Sharp would like to comment.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to clarify my previous comment with respect to the depth of the shoreline buffer required in the urban area. The official plan, I'm just reading the policy now. It speaks to a buffer 25 feet in depth, whereas in the waterfront designation, it would be 50 feet. And I would just note that as per the policy, there is consideration of a net improvement during redevelopment. So certainly it is, open for discussion and debate amongst committee. But I've explained how we concluded with the application with respect to vegetation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Member Bosenworth.
This committee has been very consistent on requiring vegetative buffer when lawns comes down essentially to the shore. And I think to continue to be consistent and treat all applicants the same. I agree with Member Grogan Green, just because it's in an urban center. There's already some reduction of 25 feet, but there sure doesn't look like 25 feet there today. And lawns cause environmental problems, and you need that environmental buffer to protect the water. So I would like to see the requirement for a vegetative buffer.
Okay, anyone else like to comment on that? Who would like to see that? And just give me a nod. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, Member Quinn, yes. Okay. Thanks for to add that in, please.
okay to read this?
I can probably read.
Or you can read my instructions.
Okay, well, we'll try. If I get stuck, we'll.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moved by member Creaser, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 6222 Conlin to permit the construction of a new single-story boat port is hereby approved with the following variants being granted. One, to permit a boat port to be 58 feet in length, and is subject to the following condition: that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for the retention of the shoreline buffer. This variance is granted, is shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? Yes, member Bosmer.
Did I hear the words for planting in the vegetative buffer?
You have the retention of shoreline buffers, want planting in there?
I would like to see the word plantings. That's the intent of what we're trying to do here.
I'm gonna read it again now.
Just read the last part there. No, actually, it's just as easy if I read it because I got to go off and on and everything.
Okay. Maybe I'll just clarify for committee's
Yeah.
benefit.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll just clarify for committee's benefit, the condition that I've added. The condition is that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for renaturalization of the shoreline buffer, including plantings.
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does that satisfy you, Member Bosworth? Okay, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay. Next application is A 8122 Riley, and that is Ms. Crowder again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 8122 in the name of Riley. The subject lands are known municipally as 1375 Butter and Egg Road, Unit 2. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on pages 284 and 285 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to construct a covered porch and a shed. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating that they have no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection to the application. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this? Okay, will you bring them in, please?
Good morning, Councillor Edwards and members of the committee. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for hearing me out. I'm only here in case you have some questions for our application.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions from the committee? Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this, either for or against Alex? Nope, okay. Any questions from the members? Yes, Member Bosworth.
I'd be delighted to approve this application. This looks like a fabulous facility. I hope it's a thriving business. And I didn't know about it, so I'm going to come and visit it one day. But congratulations. It looks like a great investment you're putting in.
I have seen it, and it is very, very good. It's a real good stewardship. And moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 8122 Riley to permit the construction of a covered porch and a shed is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a covered porch and a shed not indicated on Schedule 2 to Bylaw 2012-144. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And there's no correspondence or unfinished business or any other items, which brings us to the last resolution. Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that the meeting adjourned at 10:58 a.m. All those in favor? Thank you, and we'll see you next month. Have a great day.
Chair, I guess this is our second last meeting then, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. Very well. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the last beautiful day in Muskoka.
Okay.
Rain's in the forecast.